are here to talk about how to start and actually stick to a workout routine, which is something that really eludes so many people. So this is really about motivation and consistency, and we're going to get really into this tonight. It's going to be fun and interesting and hopefully really, really useful to all of you. So you'll be seeing my face and hearing my voice for the majority of the time until we get to the Q&A. And Jen is here, and she's going to be in the chat box, and we're going to be asking you to share in the chat box. So just be ready to do that. You can feel free to comment on anything that is happening within the webinar, anything that I bring up. But if you have any really juicy questions, I recommend that you save those until the end, until the Q&A, because that's kind of the place where we'll have an opportunity to really get into some of your questions. Cool. So before we get started, it is so tempting to multitask, totally get that. But we do encourage you to close your tabs and just kind of commit to being present for the next hour. We did introduce ourselves in the chat. If you're coming in late, if there's any new people, please say hi in the chat. And also, please stay till the end. Again, I mentioned we have the Q&A, but we also have a bonus that is just available for people who have come to the webinar. That's you. And you're not going to know what it is till the end. Let's see. This picture is amazing.
Mary Weiss, a lot of your photos are being put to good use today.
Yes, yes, yes. So before we get into the meat and potatoes, Jen and I are very honest, forthcoming people, and we want to give full disclosure because Jen and I have just gone to a lot of webinars. We're always seeking new information, and a lot of webinars we go to, there's like this kind of like sneaky sales thing happening where all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, am I just getting sold to? Like, what's going on here? So we want to be really upfront that 80% of this webinar is going to be teaching you what we hope to be really life-changing skills around motivation and habit formation when it comes to fitness. And 20% of it is going to be sharing about the Soul Sisters membership, which might just be the answer to your prayers. So we just want to be really upfront that we will be talking about the membership tonight. It'll be kind of peppered throughout and at the end. So there are a few reasons why you likely decided to come to this webinar tonight. One of them is maybe just to listen to our hilarious banter, but more likely, or in addition to that, let's really get into why you're here. So number one, you have the best intentions to work out, but you just can't seem to get started. So all of those people in our lives where we're like watching them, oh, they go, right, our sister-in-law running 4 miles every morning. And you're like, what in the heck is wrong with me that I can't get off my butt and do this thing that I really want to do? And you probably spend a lot of time beating yourself up for not following through with your exercise plans. So if that rings a bell, please share in the chat. I know I've been there. And reason number two, you get really excited for a new program and you do really well for a few weeks when it's exciting, but then you kind of fall off the wagon and eventually you just maybe find a new program and you're like, okay, this is the one, I'm going to stick to this. And then the same thing happens again and you feel like you're starting over all the time, and that can be really discouraging. So I'm curious to know which it is for you. Is it that you can't get started, you can't stick to a program, or maybe it's a little bit of both, which is completely understandable. Nice. So we want to introduce ourselves. Most of you know who we are, but I am Justine Zlotis, and my co-founder of Soul Sisters Worldwide and very, very close friend and confidant, Jen Bunny Weiss. We created Soul Sisters together. We are buddies and we are both personal trainers. Jen has over 10 years experience training. I have about 6 years, and we are passionate anti-diet coaches. And Jen is a questioner and I am a rebel. And I think you probably should all know what that means if you did your homework before the webinar. So let's see here. So we want to share a little more about ourselves and a little bit about the history of Soul Sisters. So over the last 3 years, a lot has happened. You may have noticed things are a little different than they were. And part of that is not just the pandemic, but we're just going to talk about us for a minute. So Jen and I quit dieting, and we also quit a lot of the typical workouts that we had been doing for years, mainly what we would describe as punishing workouts, right? So these are workouts where you get done these workouts and you feel like you've been hit by a bus. That's what we call punishing workouts. We now train about 2 days a week. So this is strength training. We don't train generally for more than 30 minutes at a time. And we continue to reap the benefits of those workouts. So we have time for movements that we love, like playing tennis, playing pickleball, taking dogs for a walk, going on hikes. I take my dog for a ton of, we go for probably a 45-minute walk every day. So we have time, we have energy, and we're continuing to get in those meaningful workout routines. The biggest thing for us always is how we feel, right? It's so important. And the cool thing is that we both no longer feel guilty when we miss a workout, which is a really it's a big deal. We're more joyful and confident than we've ever been. And that really speaks volumes. And we're also making really great connections through the fitness communities that we're in. Those are really important things that have happened for us. And all of this goes into our creation of Soul Sisters. So we created Soul Sisters worldwide, actually before the pandemic, but we didn't know the pandemic was coming. And we really wanted to help women fit fitness into their lives without it taking over their lives. The programs that we noticed coming out were really intense and high impact and focused on outcomes like weight loss or looking a certain way, which Jen and I both know from our years of experience aren't actually sustainable. So we really wanted to put something out there that people could do for the long term. So we have sane, quick workouts that leave our members feeling energized instead of exhausted, just like us when we're done our workouts. And we also have routines based on functional strength. So you can actually move better in real life, because having six-pack abs doesn't make you more functional when you're trying to pick up a big bag of soil or hoist your grandkids over your head. And we also really wanted to teach women what motivates them so they can feel empowered, right? And they can find that fitness groove for good instead of feeling like they're constantly starting over. So this is a great one too. I just smile at all these pictures. So Jen and I are human. Social media can make it look like everyone else is out there living these magical, perfect lives. And that's BS, right? Jen and I do love working out, but we don't always feel like doing it. And we also struggle. And we've really just come to a place of figuring out how to stay consistent by understanding what motivates us and just being really true to ourselves. And really honest with ourselves. And if we can learn to do this, then so can you. There's really nothing special. I mean, Jen and I are special, but there's really nothing special or mind-blowing, right, about Jen and I. It's just we put the work into to learn this, and now we're taking the time, we're trying to teach it to you. So let's dive into the 3 reasons that you struggle to stick to your workouts and what to do about it, more importantly. So problem number 1, you don't know how to motivate yourself. Motivation is such an interesting thing because we think we should just know how to do it. And for some people, it does come more easily to others. And we're going to talk about that. People are motivated in different ways, some internally, some externally. And there's nothing wrong with you if you do struggle to stay motivated. We perceive lack of motivation as a character flaw, and that can cause letting in Sonia, and that can cause shame, right? So that is unhelpful and detrimental. So a common mistake that we often fall victim to is just trying to use someone else's motivation style to get our own butts in gear, as my father used to say. So if we think about it like trying to tighten a screw, so you're trying to tighten a screw and you don't have the right size wrench, we wouldn't blame the screw that the screw isn't being tightened, right? We would say, oh, this wrench just doesn't fit this screw. Let me get the correct wrench. and then we'll come back and we'll do it correctly, right? Motivation and our style of being motivated is really similar to that. And that's going to make more sense once we get to the four tendencies, which you all know a little bit about already. 70% of people who start a new workout routine quit after a few months. Now, that's not a big surprise for trainers or fitness professionals like Jen and I. But I imagine some of you look at that, you're like, oh my God, that's a little bit discouraging. But we really put it up to remind you that if you struggle with motivation and consistency, you're part of the majority, right? You're not alone. And this stat is really one of the reasons why Jen and I got so curious around it, because we're thinking, what is the other 30% doing differently? And that's why we got into these four tendencies, like life-changing, right? So solution number one to this problem of not knowing how to motivate yourself is to use your tendency. Yeah. So we're going to get into sharing which tendency you are in just a second. But just to give proper, what's the word, kind of recognition, Gretchen Rubin wrote the book, The Four Tendencies, and she is an author and speaker and a really fascinating person. And she created this framework that we're going to talk about now. So let's get into the four tendencies. Super illuminating. Jen and I don't know, it was like mind blowing for me. I was like, oh my God, this explains so much of my behavior and why some things work for me and other things just don't. And instead of trying to bash my head against the wall, trying to do those things that never have worked, I can just let them go now, because I just realized, oh, that's probably never going to work for me, right? So it's very freeing in a lot of ways. Okay. Where are my questioners at, right? Let's pop into the chat if you took the four tendencies quiz and you are a questioner. Yes. Yeah, love this. Yeah, well, Jen, definitely. Leslie is a questioner. Okay.
And Lizzie had said she's like, doesn't know if she's a questioner or an obliger earlier.
Oh, maybe a little combination. Well, we'll get into it. Maybe by the end we'll be more clear. Nice. Yeah. Any other questioners out there? It's not the most common tendency, but even if this isn't your tendency, it's really interesting to learn about it because you probably know someone who is a questioner. Okay, so questioners want to know why, right? I love this quote that Jen included in this slide. I'll comply if you convince me why. And once I knew this about Jen, it was so funny because I'm like, oh my God, this explains you to a T, right? And the motivation for questioners comes from knowing why you are being asked to do something. So you're very curious little cats out there, okay? So researching your workout so you know why they're effective, or having somebody like a coach be able to explain to you why you're being asked to do something. It's really important for questioners to trust their trainers and coaches. So if you don't feel like the person that is leading you knows what they're talking about, then you're not likely to comply with what they're asking you to do. Okay. Yeah, Kathleen's a questioner. I bet Jen already maybe knew that.
Yeah. And just from like personal experience, like, you know, one example I have is that I used to download workouts online. And for some reason, sometimes I could do them and other times I couldn't. It was really confusing. I'm like, sometimes it was just so easy and it came so naturally. And other times I'd download the workouts and I'd be like, I just don't want to do this. And it turned out like if I didn't trust the person that was offering the workouts, I wasn't going to do them. If I thought it was going to be like a waste of my time and just not effective, I think that questioners are really like efficiency. Then I wasn't going to do them. So that was, and the other thing about questioners is we like rules if they make sense, but we're likely to break rules that we don't think should apply to us because they're dumb.
Because they're dumb. Yeah, exactly. And like, what a cool thing to be able to say like, oh, I wasn't doing those programs because they didn't really align with my motivational style, instead of like, oh, I wasn't doing those programs because I suck and I'm a lazy and I'm right. Because that's where we kind of tend to go when we fail at something or we fail to comply, we assume that it's something that is inherently wrong with us, when really it's just not, it doesn't align with our tendency. So, getting out of there. So, one thing to watch out for our questioners out there is paralysis by analysis, which I love that phrase. And basically that means that you can fall victim to researching something to death and not actually taking action. So imperfect action is your friend. And also efficiency is important, right? So questioners don't like to feel like they're wasting time, and they don't like a lot of fluff. So I love that. I would be curious to know, for our questioners out there, what else, like, does anything pop up for you as like, oh, like light bulb going off? Oh, that's why I struggled with this, or that's why this is more easy for me. And you can pop that into the chat. Cool. So the rebel. So any other rebels out there? Because this is my tendency. I love it. Leslie's like, this all makes sense. I know, it's so cool. I just love this framework. It's so awesome. Okay, so the rebel, this is not one of Mary Weiss's photos, by the way. So you can't make me, and neither can I. So this one is tough because rebels aren't internally or externally motivated, and we resist both our own and others' expectations of us. We don't respond well to pressure, which can be hard because that also includes, like, if your doctor says, hey, like, you need to be more active, like, we're likely to resist that instead of taking it and actually doing it. So it makes life a little bit interesting for us. Like, here's what you can do to set yourself up for success. Flexible workout programs that give you choices and that allow you to be spontaneous, right? So this is the opposite of a rigid program that's like super structured and there's like no leeway. That's not something that a rebel is going to be happy with. Are there any other rebels out there that took the quiz? You might know someone like this though.
I was gonna say, if people aren't rebels, you may find like a spouse, partner, or a child who's a rebel. So knowing these things about rebels can really help, because these are the people, if you ask or tell them to do something, they're not going to do it. So it's kind of nice to know about this tendency for dealing with people that are rebels. Dealing with people like you, Justine.
I know. Yeah. And so what motivates rebels is like having things that link up with our identity and our values, right? So it is one of my values is being a good business partner. So when Jen asks me to do something, I do that thing because it fulfills my view of myself as a good business partner, right? So I don't resist what Jen asks me to do, unlike when like my boyfriend asks me to do something. Anyway, so yeah, linking your workouts to your values, definitely choosing things you enjoy is going to be very important for a rebel. It's not going to go great if you don't actually enjoy the workout that you're doing. And also set the bar low. There is a case to be made for having low expectations, honestly. And also challenges. Challenging a rebel is one way to get them to do something. So whether this is you're dealing with someone else or it's you, yeah. Lizzie's got a little rebel in her too. I like it. All right, let's move on. We got 2 to go. So the obliger, the majority of people are obligers. Can you please put into the chat if this was your tendency? So this one, I like that. Yeah, Mary Beth. Okay, we got one. I'll do anything you ask until I won't. So I think that's really interesting. Yep, Sonia too. So this is really interesting. Like externally, obligers are externally motivated. So they strive to meet outside expectations, but they struggle to meet their own, even if it's something they want to do, which can be really kind of frustrating, right? Kathy, how many times did you take the chat? She said at the second time she was the obliger. Yeah, Kristen is an obliger as well. Yeah, so this group can't just print out a DIY workout off of Pinterest and just do it on their own, right? Like that's just not going to work for them. They need support, they need accountability. And even though it's the most common tendency, it's tough because our culture has this very like pull yourself up by your bootstraps mentality, and it can feel like a weakness to have to reach out for help or to hire a coach or ask for support. I'm wondering if any of the obligers have felt like that they feel like, what the heck, like why can't I just do what I set out to do, and maybe have hesitated in the past to reach out for help or have accountability. Yeah. Sonia's a little bit of a rebel too. Yeah. So setting up for success for the obliger, having an accountability buddy. This can be another person that you plan to work out with, and you don't want to let that person down. Hiring a coach. Yeah, I love that. Thanks for your honesty, Kristen. Kristen says, I never asked for help. Yeah, I think that's really common. I appreciate that. Yeah, totally. So hiring a coach, having an accountability group is important. These are people that you don't set out to do those things by yourself, because you're not setting yourself up for success. And again, when we set out to do something on our own and we don't do it, it can set up this really discouraging pattern, right? Where we're constantly letting ourselves down. So that is why it's so important for obligers, who again are the majority of people, right? To find a way to find accountability and support. This was a huge motivating factor for Jen and I when we learned about this, to add in the accountability to the Soul Sisters membership. That was actually one of the newer features that I'll talk about later, but having an accountability check-in monthly for all of our members. And we will give you details about that. But this was a huge motivating factor. We're like, oh my goodness, people really need this. So one thing is, be wary of putting others' needs before your own too often. This can lead to what's called the Obliger Rebellion, which was a really interesting, I wrote a few notes about this. It's very similar to burnout, but basically you say yes, 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 yes to everything, and then you kind of snap. And it almost might feel like a bit of self-sabotage, where you just kind of refuse to do something or multiple things, even if they're beneficial to you, right? Even if it might cause you harm, you're just like, I am freaking done, right? I really was curious if any of the obligers out there have ever experienced this called Obliger Rebellion, where you're just like, you know what, I'm freaking at my limit and like, I cannot do anymore. I know I'm not an obliger, but I know I've had that. Like you just hit a wall. Yeah. Yeah, I love that, Sonia. Yeah, exactly. You hit a wall. Yep. And then your own needs suffer. I think that's such a great point. I had a conversation today about how a lot of times women are more apt to hurt themselves than hurt another person, right? Like we just want everyone else to feel good, and we're willing to take on the burden. Yep. Yeah, Lizzie. Yep. Yeah, being a caregiver. Absolutely. Absolutely. Nice. Mary Weiss calls it the Obliger Flip Out. I like that better than Obliger Rebellion, because that's kind of what it's like. You're just like, I can't take another thing.
It's like that really long fuse that like explodes suddenly.
I love that visual, Jen. Yeah, like the bomb, like from the Disney movies, right? And it's just like, and then it just goes off. Exactly. Yeah. So having support is so important for obligers. And this doesn't just have to be fitness related. This can be everything related, really practicing asking for help, reaching out, and knowing that you are worth it, right? A lot of times like finances might get in the way, like, oh, well, I would hire a coach or I would do this, but oh, it's too expensive, right? But it's like, if it comes down to your well-being, your mental health, it's worth it. And you can't keep giving, right, if you're not receiving. So just something to keep in mind. So finally, the upholder, right? So this one, do what's right, even when people call you uptight. So Jen and I joke that these people like make us all look bad, right? Are there any upholders in the group? Did anyone identify as an upholder?
Of course not. They don't need us.
Right. If you did, you might not be tonight. but I bet you all know someone, because this is the person that has a pretty easy time committing to something and following through with it. We all know this person. It's like that person that, like, you know, I feel like I want to say that there are more men. Jen, do you know if it's gendered or no?
I haven't seen any, yeah, I haven't seen any information about that. Tamara thinks
No.
she might be one, which I could see.
Yep, totally. Yeah, so upholders, they love to have a schedule or like a to-do list. They're very regimented and routinized, right? They love a routine, and they want solid expectations, right? So they want to know, okay, what is being asked of me, so that they can meet those expectations, not just again, not just externally, but they can actually do that for themselves, right? So these are the people, a lot of fitness professionals are upholders, right? These are the people that just work out 5 days a week and don't seem to have an issue, like, you know, just eating oatmeal every day for breakfast or whatever, you know. It's like, those are the people, and those are the upholders are also the people that we are set up in our culture to want to be like, right? So this can be problematic for a lot of reasons, because we think, oh, I can like somehow turn into an upholder. I just need to be more like this person, right? Instead of embracing the motivational style that does work for us, we kind of just wish that we were like the upholders, right? So there are some drawbacks to upholders, which is they can sometimes lack compassion for non-upholders, right? Because they're like, I don't get it. Like, I set a goal, I achieved the goal. Like, why is it so hard for you? Right. So I'm wondering, listening to this, do you know, if you're not an upholder, do you know anyone that is? I bet you do. Oh, Mary Beth says she's married to one. Yeah. Lizzie is a patchwork of all of the tendencies. Yep.
And Justine and I were talking too, if you've ever worked with a trainer or a coach of any kind that's just like been really impatient with you, maybe they're an upholder and they don't understand that you're struggling to get things done. And we're sorry that you've worked with somebody like that, because they suck and they're not very empathetic.
Yeah, such a great point, Jen. And also for our upholders, it can be challenging if your routine is disrupted, right? So you have this schedule and you're sticking to your routine, and then suddenly something unexpected happens. Perhaps it's an injury or an illness or something just gets in your way, and that can be really jarring. Or like, upholders might have a tough time going on vacation, right? And thank you, Lizzie. And that can really kind of disrupt them and perhaps cause some emotional turmoil or feeling of out of control or being anxious. So yeah, that is our last. So this is our last four tendencies. This is something that we really merged into the membership, because we were just like, this is such incredible information, and we do recommend that that you read the book if you are interested, if this was impactful for you, this information, The Four Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin. Now, if you want to talk more about or have questions about any of the tendency stuff, let's hold off until the Q&A. Just make a note, and if you want to do a little bit more deep dive into this, we'll talk about it at the end. All right, so problem number one was not understanding how to motivate yourself. Problem number two is sky high expectations. Like, ding, ding, ding. I definitely suffer from this for sure. So good enough is just not in your vocabulary, right? Your mindset plays a huge role in motivation, and it can determine what you think of as a success and what you think of as a failure. And we think of that like, well, isn't that very black and white? But it really isn't. Successes and failures are just our own perception. Let's see. Wow. So embrace progress over perfection. So this is easier. It's easier said than done, right? Like, how do we do this? How can we drop the all or nothing thinking and find ways to recognize and celebrate wins? I think one first thing is to just ask, like, how do having these sky high expectations, or having this idea that there's this right way to do things, how does it benefit you? Is it benefiting you, right? How is it working for you? It's one of Jen's favorite questions to ask. So next, you know, these are some of our favorite workout myths that we believe really hold women back, right? So these are some expectations that are very hard to hit on a regular basis. And when we have these expectations for ourselves, such as we need to work out for at least an hour, we need to work out 4 to 5 days a week. If I'm not sore, sweaty, or really tired after my workout, then it's not really working or it's not really worth it. These are all examples of really, really high expectations. And you might not even see it though. You may be like, well, 60 minutes, isn't that just a normal workout time? Like, it truly isn't. This, and there's no, when we have this idea of things must be a certain way, if we fall short even a little bit, we perceive that as a failure. So again, arguing for a low bar here. Yeah. Is anyone kind of brave enough to say like, ooh, like I really feel like one of these is true for me. Like I feel like if I'm not really sweaty or if I don't feel sore, that I'm not getting a good workout in. Or is all, I mean, most of you again are like, you're our Soul Sisters peeps in our Facebook group. So I expect all of you to know these myths. So yeah, I mean, one thing that people love about the Soul Sisters workouts within the membership, and this is from our girl Allison. So the favorite part about the Soul Sister membership is the workouts are attainable. I love that word. Even when I don't want to wake up and do them, I know they won't leave me feeling dead on my back. It's less easy to make excuses about working out, right? So that is such an important thing because you can set yourself up so that exceeding your expectations is easy. And the way to do that is by setting the bar low, right? So having attainable workouts, really, really important. So problem number 3.
Yeah. Before we go on, there were some people have been direct messaging me like privately and stuff, kind of talking about how they do really well for a little while and then something happens and they're not able to do it very well anymore. So they're like, I think I'm an upholder for a little bit, but then I'm not anymore. And I think that's where considering problem number 2, considering those high expectations and the perfectionism, that's what might be getting in your way, is like, it's just not good enough. So there's no point at all in doing anything, which is just lunacy. Anyway.
Yeah, Jen often describes this metaphor like, you know, you get a flat tire and what do? You don't go around and let the air out of all your other tires, right? Like you don't like, and I think that it's kind of the throwing the baby out with the bathwater type of thing. Yeah, Kristen, thank you. Yeah, Kristen, she knows. She said, I'm guilty of this. And I think we all have been. And I do want to say, in the lunatic face, it's fun, yeah. I want to say that number 2 for me, those sky high expectations is definitely something I have personally dealt with and just setting myself up like, oh, I'm going to do, and this has been years now, but I definitely was that person like 5 days a week. I'm going to do, like I had these huge workout programs and of course I couldn't maintain it. Like it just, you know, it just was completely ridiculous looking back on it. But I really thought that was just a normal workout routine, right? So that's why the myth busting is important, because a lot of our beliefs around fitness is like, where the heck do they come from? They're actually, a lot of them just really aren't true. So problem number 3, and this is the last problem that we're going to get into today. Your goals are based on factors out of your control. So I love this one, and Jen put this, this was her idea, and I just love it so much, and it's so relatable. So, you know, we have a lot of compassion for all of you who want to like lose weight or fit into your favorite pair of jeans. It's so understandable that we want those things in the culture that we live in, that is thin, obsessed, and constantly kind of telling us that we should be striving for like this thin ideal. But then when the scale doesn't budge after, you know, weeks or months of like working out and doing your program, you get discouraged, and then you wonder, what the heck is the point, right? So we just have this tunnel vision where we have this goal, right? We're like, usually it's weight loss, and it's like we ignore everything else going on. And so if we don't achieve that very particular outcome, we see it as pointless, right? So let's get into this a little bit. So why is this a problem? Like, I have had this conversation with so many where they're like, Justine, what's the big deal? I just want to like lose 10 pounds. Or like, Justine, what's the big deal? I just want to like fit into the jeans that I fit into like 5 years ago, right? Like, it can make it seem like it's just like this very normal thing, because it is normal in our culture to want that. But the problem with this is that you cannot control outcomes. You can take the steps to lose whatever amount of weight or to fit into a certain size, but there's no guarantee you're going to get there. And if you don't get there, then in your mind, you've failed. Or perhaps you get there, but then you don't stay there, and then you failed, right? And this is why, this is another topic for another day, but this is that diet cycle, right? Where it's like, okay, but can you maintain this? And the answer is almost always no. Yeah, so why this is a problem, page 2. So if you really have this outcome-based, like out there goal, right? Especially when it comes to weight loss, right? We think about this idea of like, once I lose weight, I'm gonna be happy. And the issue with this is we don't recognize the other really impactful wins along the way, like getting stronger, having more energy, just being able to do things that we weren't able to do before. We will quit or change workouts whenever it's not working, right? So we kind of give up on a workout program once we stop seeing the scale change, or if we don't see the scale change, we're like, oh, well, this isn't for me. Like, I'm just going to move on to something else. So oftentimes people will choose unsustainable workouts because you think you're going to get better results, right? So that you have programs where it's like 3 months to a beach body or whatever. It's like, so we might latch onto that program, but then what happens at the end of the 3 months, right? Not sustainable. We gain the weight back and then feel like crap. And yes, the weight gain back, I mean, we're talking 97% of dieters regain the weight, and even really active people, doesn't mean that you're going to morph into a model body. So I have many, many clients who are above the BMI that work out with me 3 days a week, right? And like that are very active people. So we really need to change that definition, which is part of what we do in Soul Sisters. Yeah, you're going to do workouts you don't enjoy. Absolutely, right? Because you just are so fixated on that outcome. And you'll ignore the signs that you need to rest. Most of these programs, especially for weight loss, are pretty grueling, and they're can be really unforgiving. So a lot of issues with that. Jen, do you want to add anything to this one?
No, when we go on to behavior-based goals, I just want to get like maybe some brainstorm ideas from people on behavior-based goals, but that'll be later.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. And I just want to say for Jen and I, this is one thing that we bonded on, because we would have female clients. We would be working with them for, a few months, and they're lifting heavier, they're moving better, like they're in a better mood. You can see that they're more confident. And then one day they come in and they're looking really discouraged, and they say, we're like, what's going on? Like, everything okay? They're like, oh, I weighed myself and I'm like 1.5 pounds heavier, like 2 pounds heavier, or the scale hasn't moved, right? And just that one piece of information from the scale is enough to seemingly just completely blow out of the water all the other really awesome things that have happened along the way. So again, just those kind of blinders on when it comes to weight loss and aesthetic goals. So what's a solution to this? Behavior-based goals. And I will definitely have Jen jump in probably on this, because she's actually taught me about this. And it's such a cool concept. Make the habit the goal. I swear to God, when she first said this to me, I was like, what? Like, what are you saying? Like, didn't totally click. But you can control what you do. You can't control what the results are, right? We're just not in control of that, as much as diet culture would like us to believe. So focus on behaviors that will help you feel better regardless of the outcome. I know that sounds nuts, especially when it comes to fitness, because it's like, I know, but shouldn't I be making like do 10 push-ups, like lose this amount of weight, like la la la, This is such a profound shift in the way to approach fitness. Jen, I haven't gotten to that slide, right? I don't want to skip anything.
Well, yeah, I think this is a good time to talk about behavior-based goals. So the reason I did that photo, the silly photo of the cat, is because drinking a certain amount of water every day would be a behavior-based goal. So I'd love in the chat for some people to share some behavior-based goals. And they don't have to be fitness related. It could be things like meditating or going to bed, or like maybe even like not drinking as much caffeine, anything like that. So in the chat, if you could share, you don't have to be doing them, but some examples of behavior-based goals. I'd love that.
Yeah. Yeah, Sonia says it's hard to make habits stick. Yeah, totally. I mean, this might be, I'm just kind of spitballing here, but for me, I know like when I'm having a hard time making habits stick, I'm probably really focused on the outcome of that habit, right? I'm like, I want to do this because it's going to get me here. And I have all this focus on that future thing. And then it takes me out of the ability to actually do what's in front of me. I don't know. I wonder how that lands for you, Sonia. That's interesting though. Yeah. Yeah, walking every day is definitely a behavior-based goal. And this is what's interesting, because what does it mean to walk every day? That would be different based on your tendency, right? So for me as a rebel, walking every day, it could be 5 minutes, 30 minutes, 2 hours, 30 seconds, right? I would need a lot of leeway. But for Tamara, she probably would say, okay, I want to say I'm walking every day. I'm going to walk 2 miles every day, right? So she would want to have a goal around that that's a little bit more specific, right? But it's still the habit, right? We're not saying I want to walk every day in order to get to this outcome, right? It's just the walking is the point. The walking is the goal. Love that. Yeah, getting in the habit of paying attention to how my body feels. Cool. Yeah, stretching in the morning. Yeah, I love that, Tamara, even if it's just a couple minutes. I really like that concept. Everyone's really grasping that, where it's like, it's the habit that's the goal. It doesn't have to be an exact certain way. Sleeping 8 hours. Yeah.
I also love that Mary Beth she's trying to get 10K steps a day, but she's looking at her weekly average instead of looking at each individual day. And like, that's a huge part of consistency. It's not about every day, but it's about like generally doing the thing over weeks, months, years.
Yes, love that. Yeah, reading poetry at night to help me sleep. That's so cool. Yeah, so great. So everyone's really got that, right? Everyone's got it. Now, are these bright and shiny objects? No, they are not. Are they sexy, right? No, they're not really sexy. Are they exciting? Something that you're going to be like, I'm doing this thing? Not really. And so that's kind of a part of it, is like, but really it's those quiet people just like doing their thing that are being really consistent. And it's funny because one other thing Jen and I really bonded over when we were training together was like, you have potential clients come in and they're like, I'm ready to go. I'm going to do this. Like, let's do it. Like, so excited and like, and those people almost never lasted more than just like a month. And then you have people come in and they're quiet and they're skeptical and they're okay, let's do this, and they're not super excited. And those were the people that really like last the longest, right? Jen, do you remember us having that conversation?
Totally. And when I first started training, I would get hoodwinked by the super enthusiastic people. And I'd be like, oh my God, this client is awesome. And I quickly learned that they are not awesome. And then if somebody that was grumpy came in and they're like, listen, I'm not going to give up my Diet Coke, but I'm going to work out twice a week. And they would do that for 3 years straight.
Oh my God, that is so interesting. Yeah, so think about that, because we've all been that person where we're like, all right, that's it. I'm getting down to business. I'm going to start working out 5 days a week. Like, this is ridiculous. I need to We've all been that person, right? So like how do we walk that? How do we walk that back? So this is a great page to be on. Do I have to work out a ton to benefit from exercise? No, the answer is no. You can get great results from a few minutes of 30, from as few as 30 minutes of strength workouts a week, right? So workouts don't have to be long. They don't have to be grueling. Jen and I are both doing 2 strength-based workouts a week. And by seeing results or getting results, we mean like we are getting stronger, like we're getting more functional as we do that. Doing something is better than doing nothing unless you need rest, right? So we just got to be careful with that, because if you really do just need some downtime, then you need to take that. Behavior-based goals, which we talked about, and then being realistic about your commitment leads to more consistency. I love this. This is another thing Jen said to me that I had never heard before, which is, what can you do on your worst day? Right? Like every time I ever made a workout plan for myself, it'd be like, in order for me to do that plan, every day would have to be like the best day ever. No PMSing, no being on my period, no unexpected stuff happening, right? And it's so interesting to switch around and say, no. What can you do on your absolute worst day? That like blew my mind. I'm just wondering if anyone else, like, probably anyway, I wonder if it's just me, but and then short workouts are more doable and they will leave you more energized, right? We have lives. We're not professional worker outers, right? We want to have energy to do other things and not be exhausted. And they leave more time for you, right? Like to prioritize other things that are going to be beneficial for your overall well-being. It's not just about working out, guys. Like, yes, movement is important, but it's not everything. Relationships, rest, socializing, and being creative, being able to express ourselves. These are all other pillars of health that are just as important, right? They just all come together. All right, so this, all the information that we just gave you, like this is what really influenced our revamping of the membership. So our membership sets you up for success in a few ways. So it teaches you your tendency, which you guys are already know, so you're already a step ahead. Sane workouts, which I love that term. Like Jen designs most of the strength workouts, and she just has this way of like cutting through the crap because of her questioner tendency, and putting together such an awesome strength workout, and HIIT, of course. I know some people like that. Email support, that is something that we're adding on, is the accountability piece. And community support, I think you're all members of the Facebook group, and that has just been invaluable to us, and we hope that you all feel the same way. And of course, options, right, for our rebels out there. We're not so rigid that you feel like you are trapped within the workout. So remember, you guys, if you struggle to work out, there's nothing wrong with you. This is a journey. It's not a light switch that you're just gonna flip on and off. So it can be really hard sometimes, and sometimes you just need help figuring out how to make it easy, or at least easier, and that's what we're here for. So this means recognizing what kind of motivation and support you need. Like, get honest about it, right? Don't feel bad about needing help or having questions or wanting support. Letting go of exercise myths that just are holding you back, right? Like, I need to work out for an hour, I need to work out this many times a week. That stuff is just not serving you. And being able to embrace goals that are within your control, like the behavior-based goals. So at this point, there's 2 options, right? You have 2 options. You can take the information we've given you today and do your best to apply it to your workout program on your own, or you can decide to make working out consistently a priority and use the resources that we've created through the Soul Sisters membership to make it happen. So, Soul Sisters worldwide. So some of you are already members, and we love you. And we've been working, Jen and I have been working our tails off for the last several months to revamp the Soul Sisters membership using the 4 tendencies. And I'm going to tell you about it right now. And I'm going to tell you about the killer bonus for new members, and the freebie that is going to be available for all of you, whether you join or not. So is this you? You are looking for a way to start and actually stick to your workouts, right? So cookie cutter programs tell you what to do, but they do not help you learn how to get it done. We've all done programs like this. We have it in our hand, right? We're like, okay, here it is. And then we don't do it. Like, I cannot be the only one who has experienced this. How many freaking programs do I have right now that I could go do? It's not going to happen, right? So we work with you to find ways to make you accountable based on your tendency, right? Because we recognize that your circumstances are unique, that you are unique. And you want to fit workouts into your life rather than having your life revolve around your workouts, right? So a lot of people, when I was teaching classes, they were like, oh, you teach all these classes. Like, I was working full time at a gym, and they were like, oh, like, should I be working out this much? Like, I'm like, no, do not work out this much, right? Like, we have lives. You are not personal trainers, right? Like, you don't work in a gym. Like, you all have lives, you have families, right? So Soul Sisters members are always pleasantly surprised by how much they can get out of the shorter workouts, right? Everything is under 45 minutes. And we really work to help you let go of the all or nothing thinking, right? That perfectionism and really high expectations, and learn the power of good enough. It's like, should be our motto, like, it's good enough. And not dreading your workouts, also key, right? So we had that quote from earlier from a member. That's a huge piece of the membership. Like, we never want you to get into work and be like, oh my God, look at all this. Like, this is going to take me forever and I'm going to feel so exhausted afterwards. So finally, you want to feel strong and confident. You don't want to spend all your time stressing about your weight. So many fitness programs are weight centric. And if you've been following us and been a member of the Facebook group for a while, you probably know that this is a big part of our promise, right? We mentioned in the beginning, we're anti-diet coaches. So this doesn't mean that we're anti-dieter. We totally understand the immense pressure in our culture to be thin, and we're all affected by that. But the space that we hold in our membership and the Facebook group is dedicated to a weight neutral approach, okay? So we don't define fitness by a number on the scale or your gene size or the shape of your body. And I would hope that that is like a huge relief to a lot of you, that we have this alternative space for fitness. We encourage behavior based on goals that build you up, right? Outcome-based goals such as weight loss may temporarily work, but in the end, they are unsustainable and really frustrating, right? Have we all experienced this, like the dieting or the workout where we get those temporary results and then they're gone? Like, has anyone had that happen to them? Like, it does not feel good. But please share in the chat if that is a program you've done. Look, I'm going to share right now, me, because I've done so many programs like that. So the Soul Sisters promise is, it just makes me want to cry because it's so great. An anti-diet workout program that's designed to help you get stronger through short, sane workouts, individualized email support, right? That's the accountability part, and a community of like-minded women like the ones that are in this webinar. And we appreciate you so much. Nice. Yeah, I'm loving that solidarity in the chat. Everyone's like, yup. Yeah, it's just important. Like, we can all relate to this. Yeah, over and over. Totally. So Jen is going to drop the link into the chat that will lead you to the sign up page for membership if you are not already a member. I'm going to move this over so I can see. So what it includes, so this is all through a platform called Kajabi, where you get your own login and access to everything Soul Sisters. So you get 3 strength workouts and 1 HIIT workout every month. It is in a beautiful workout. You can see a little demo of what it looks like over here. All workouts are full body, with a monthly focus. Like this month, our focus for October is balance. So all of the workouts are themed around balance. They're full body, but you'll see a lot of exercises that challenge balance, right? And a cool thing too is that we always explain what the focus is, why it's important to you. And it just makes it more fun that way. Themes are always fun. So in addition to the workouts, you get access to a library. I want to say that there are at least 15 to 20 yoga videos led by me, and a really awesome ebook that I put together that has all 10 principles of intuitive eating. So we've talked a lot about intuitive eating in the past. And I really recommend that if you become a member, that you do go and find the 10 principles of intuitive eating and go through it. It's for beginners. So if anyone has ever been curious about what intuitive eating is all about, please find that once you become a member. Lizzie, I've been a member since the very beginning. It's been great. Although I've fallen off the last few months due to dragon boating, I'm ready to get back to it. Yeah, awesome.
I wanted to make a comment about your yoga videos too. They're all pretty short.
Yeah, I think the longest one is 50 minutes, but the majority of them are between 15 and 30 minutes long. Yeah, thank you, Jen. Yes. Yeah, I mean, honestly, that often held me back from doing yoga because I'm like, I don't really want to do yoga for an hour. Like, I don't really want to do it for an hour. And I'm like, oh, I don't have to do it for an hour. What do you know, right? So again, just those kind of myths, those ideas we have in our head that are so dogmatic. And we're like, wait a minute, I'm in charge. I can do what I want to do, right? So you get access to all of that. And the new membership, so this is part of the revamp, is to have the unique tendency to stay accountable. Jen is going to drop into your Kajabi account basically a really cool guide to the tendencies as it pertains to fitness. So I'm really excited to see that. We're going to help set realistic and achievable goals, troubleshoot scheduling issues and other struggles, and recognize and celebrate wins. So the email check-in is going to include all of this. And this is a really cool add-on that we are just doing now. So we haven't offered this before. If you're already a member, please just reach out to Jen and I individually, and we will hook you up with that if you would like to have the email check-in. So this whole membership is $99 a month. We really wanted to come up with a price that is motivating but attainable for most people. So that includes the 3 strength training workouts a month, HIIT workout, monthly strength guide, the fitness calendar. Love it. You can print out the calendar, check off the boxes, weekly email check-ins, the yoga library, the 10 intuitive eating steps ebook, and check-ins via the Facebook group. So we just wanted to add, so Anne, we love Anne, so she recommends us so many ways to modify, making it more or less challenging. We have videos for every workout. So when you go into the workout, you can click the exercise and a video of us pops up doing the exercise. So there is no guesswork. She says she's going to take it on the road with the camper when she's back. So you'd love it. And also, yeah, Hayden, she has 2 kids, a new dog, right? She doesn't want fitness taking over her life, and that's part of why she likes Soul Sisters, because it's doable, it's attainable, it fits into her schedule. So that link is in there, and the doors for the Soul Sisters membership close on October 15th. And we are encouraging you to sign up by October 8th by throwing in a pretty awesome bonus, which is a one-on-one coaching call with one of us, where we'll talk motivation, helping you schedule your workouts, and we can go over exercises that you struggle with. So if you join before the 8th of October, which is pretty soon, then you are going to get that one-on-one coaching call, which is going to be awesome. So freebie. So Jen, drop that into the chat. So this is the freebie that I put together for you guys, which is a build your own full body workout matrix. It's really, really cool. And basically it teaches you how to put together your own full body workout. And there's so many possibilities you can probably put together. I'm not a mathematician, but I want to say, like, Jen, how does math work? Do you think like 100 different different workouts using that same
Yeah, I
process?
don't know. That's gonna be beyond my
I'm
high
gonna
school
say
level.
100. So please get into the chat and download that for yourself. That's such a great resource. And yeah, I really had a fun time making it. Awesome. So Q&A. So what I want to invite everyone to do now is I'm not going to stop sharing, but I would like everyone to come up and change the view to gallery. And if you feel comfortable, turning your cameras on, and that's fine. You don't have to. You can not talk. You can put questions into the chat, and that's also totally fine. So I am curious, and you can turn your mute off and ask, or you can put it in the chat. Thanks, Leslie. Thank you so much. I know, I missed you too. Bye. Asking any of those kind of deeper, juicier questions that you've been saving till the end.
Or just out of curiosity, like, was there anything today that really resonated with you, or you found helpful? That'd be nice to know too.
Hi all, it's Sonia.
Yay, Sonia!
I just love Justine to pieces. I mean, come on, you're amazing. You make me so happy. I don't know Jen yet, but I'm sure you're of the same class.
I'm equally charming.
I 100% can see it. So sounds like an amazing program. I love the approach. I think it's what I need to get over the hump. Whereas I'm always set on this goal that just seems so unachievable, like Mount Kilimanjaro or something, and then I just fall down the mountain every single time. So I'm super excited. I'm gonna sign up. So I'm looking forward to it. Thank you both so much.
Oh, that's so great to hear. Thank you so much, Sonia. Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, Sonia's done some of my shorter programs, and it's always one of those things. Every time I put out like a 10-week program or a 3-month program, it's hard because I'm like, this probably is only going to last for people for 3 months, right? I mean, that's what it is. So that was a big thing for Jen and I, to put something out there that has longevity, that we can actually put out and say, hey, like, this isn't going to end. Like, we're not going anywhere. Like, we're here, and this program is here. And I think that that's part of the reason why we're excited about it. Yeah, totally. So I'm just curious, like, how the tendencies, like learning about the tendencies. I mean, I tend to be an excitable person, but does anyone else like learning about that where you're like, oh my God?
I still just love, oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that was really interesting to think of how your different profiles of tendencies could impact you or others. Like, I think just in relationships and with friends and in an actual relationship, it's really important, like not just for the wellness, fitness portion of it, but for the mental part. Yeah, this was really interesting. I liked it.
Thanks, Tamra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys are so wonderful. Keep doing the work you're doing. You
Well,
really
we're just
are.
gonna hold webinars all the time. It just means people say nice things to us.
No, but I mean,
nice.
for Jen and I, yeah, go ahead.
It's refreshing to see something that is not about like how you have to look a certain way or like follow these strict rules, and more about like things that's gonna fit you as an individual, as a unique person. I really like the approach you guys are taking, and hopefully it becomes huge and and people can. I just see like my mom, she's like tormented with like diet for her entire life, and then she's still in that pattern. I'm like, Mom, like what are you trying to do? Like it makes me sad, and it's nice to see that this kind of approach and way of thinking is getting out there, and hopefully will reach people. And I don't know, life is too short to be stuck thinking about dieting.
Yeah, it's totally true. And I like talking to you, Tamara, too, because Tamara's from Colombia. So like, I don't know, what do you think is different? Do you think diet culture is different in Colombia from here in any way?
I think so, because being heavier is not as bad as it is in here. Like, I feel like when people call you gordita, which means fatty, is in a loving way, in many senses. And like in Colombia, like voluptuosity and like big hips and big boobs and butts and like just roundness is celebrated a little more than here. But I think now, because of the like cross culture and all the social media, a lot of the American concept of beauty is getting into Colombia. Like, I see it with my younger cousins that like a lot of them have like eating disorders, and I didn't see that in my generation as much. And I actually didn't have that thinking before I came here. My puppy. Yeah, I feel like it's making me more aware of your looks. I don't know. But I think you guys can really change people's lives. And that's why I support you, and I like to be in your webinars, and I love your lives, and it's very inspiring.
Thanks, Tamara.
Thanks, Tamara. That's so nice. I really I think what you said that really resonated is that, and I think that's important to realize, is that a lot of this is transgenerational, right? It's hard, you see, aunts and, or your mom, or your sister.
Turn that way down, please.
Oh. And just this kind of diet mentality, and you can see it in others too, even if you're not actively dieting, and it's hard to watch. And I think this wave of new understanding around wellness and mental health and everything that is this anti-diet movement, I do believe it is getting momentum. And Jen and I are like, we're just holding on for dear life, like hoping that it'll, that it can go mainstream.
Yeah.
Totally. It's not easy, but we're doing it.
It's good. It's great.
I also,
Lizzie, what do you think?
Well, I also think that not thinking that you have to work out for an hour is huge. Knowing that you can do a lesser workout and it's still going to really, really help you is very, very empowering as well as helpful. Because to say, oh, I have to do an hour. I mean, some people just have a really hard time doing. I mean, I'm retired now, so I have more freedom, but a lot of people have a really hard time doing an hour. And it's like, you don't have to do an hour. You can do a much shorter workout and still get a really great return on it. And I think you guys are sending that message more than anybody else, because most everything, if you go to a gym or anything else, it's always an hour, and plus you have to commute to the gym and back. So this is something different. The other thing that I really like is that I don't remember the exercises, so having those videos that I can click and say, okay, and I go through them at the beginning, and then I can remember them for the workout because we're repeating them a few times, but I need that reminder in order to get the exercises. So that's what I think has helped me a lot.
Absolutely. I mean, it's funny because Jen and I have this, we have this library of exercises in our head, but it's completely ridiculous to expect that people that aren't fitness professionals and know what things are. And it's funny because I have clients that I see 2 to 3 days a week, and I'm like, I have them do the same warm up. You know, I'm like, all right, here we go. Here's a Spider-Man, and they're like,
What?
what's that again? You know, and I'm like, we do this every time, you know? So yeah, that's a great point. And yeah, I love what you brought up about like the fact that, you know, people don't take into account the commute to the gym or the class, which for some people like Tamara lives a bit out there, not too far out there, but like whatever, like when you come to the Dragon Boat workouts, like that's like what, you got like 30 minutes to get there, and then it's an hour long, you have 30 minutes home, and then you got to shower. It's like almost 2.5 hour ordeal. And like, that's such an insane expectation for someone who might have small children or is a caretaker, right, for a loved one or whatever. And then that person ends up having to feel guilty and like they're lazy because they're not getting their workout in. Like, that's just simply not fair. And that barrier of, like you're saying, like, how many people though, Lizzie, honestly, are probably that's a barrier for them where they're like, I don't have an hour.
Right.
And they just don't do anything.
And I also think that what you guys have said over and over, ever since I've been involved with you, is, don't guilt yourself. Do what you can do. And if you miss it, you miss it. If you don't, you don't. And if you can work and you get someplace, great. But don't guilt yourself. And I think through my life, I think a lot of workouts have been guilt. And if you don't do it, then you lose. And whether it was with sports or whether it was with a lot of things. And so getting to a culture where you do what you can do, you try to get your steps, but if you don't get your steps, you don't worry about it. Other times you get steps and you don't even know you're getting them. That's so huge, because it really has been a guilt culture. And I think it's so much better to be a positive culture and to say, walk a block. You're still doing something. It makes such a difference.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, Jen, go ahead. I want to hear what you have to say about that.
I think, like, as a personal trainer, I spend a lot of time telling people it's okay to miss their workouts, which you would think that my job as a personal trainer would be to make people work out. But a lot of times I'm just telling them, like, it's okay.
Yeah. And sometimes you need that okay, because, your arm is hurting, or you have to rest, or you just had too much time with somebody else that you couldn't do it. And yet, why guilt yourself because you had to take care of this appointment for this other person and you didn't get your workout in? It's like, no, guilt is not a good thing. And you guys have really taught me that, guilt is a bad thing, and don't do it, and just start, so you missed it. We'll start again today. Not a big deal.
I find that when it's not a big deal, if I have to miss it, then there's no guilt, and I continue to enjoy it a ton. And then I keep doing it. And I'm disappointed when I have to miss it because I have another commitment or something's come up. But I don't say, oh God, I can't do this. I can't keep the commitment. See, that's the obliger. I can't keep the commitment, so I'm not going to do it. So that helps a lot. Just saying, hey, I'm going to be out of town. I can't do it. Or my neck's killing me. I just can't do it this morning. Or sometimes I do the workout, but I don't move my camera. So I'm fudging a little bit here and there, but it's okay,
So my mom comes to my Zoom classes.
Yeah.
I just see an arm from the floor with no dumbbell in it. I'm like, Mom, you're supposed to be holding a weight.
Not this morning. Yeah. So that, and I think I have a better commitment and more effort because of that perceived flexibility for me. So it's great. So.
Yeah, I liken this too, and we haven't talked about it intuitive eating and stuff for a long time, but I do liken it. It's so similar to eating, right? Where we're like, we need more rules and more structure and more rigidity. But then you realize the more you try to box yourself in, the more out of control you feel, the more you actually end up, you know, overeating and craving the foods that you're trying not to eat, right? It's like, it's the same with exercise. We think that we need shame and guilt to keep us on the straight and narrow. Like, oh, well, I should feel bad because I messed up, and now that's going to motivate me to not mess up. But we all know that's not really how it works. Like, life experience tells us that that isn't how it works. And the guilt, and Sonia put in the chat, which is so true, like, oh, I missed a workout, ate a cookie, etc. So just give up, right? That is so relatable. And like, that is what happens when we have that shame in the mix, and it creates this cycle of like, set the expectation super high, do it for a short amount of time, fail, and then, you know, be depressed and feel like crap, and then try again, right? And it's just this up and down. And what I always say to my clients, I'm like, if this is like maintenance, right? We want the wave to look like this, right? Not this. This is not good, right? But just this, right? I did all my workouts that week. That's cool. Oh, I just did one workout that week. That's all right. Oh, I did a more, right? It's like, because that's life, right? It ebbs and it flows, and things come up that we have no control over. And that will happen. Like, it's like we set these plans in motion with the idea that like nothing is going to happen. We're just going to be able to do this exact thing for eternity. It's like, what world are we trying to live in here? That's a classic Justine rant right there, by the way. I did reel it in a little.
I feel like Ozzy's bladder is like right on schedule for us to be
Okay.
done.
Well, it has been almost
I can
90
hear
minutes.
the little feet are pitter pattering.
Yes. It's been almost 90 minutes, so we so appreciate those of you that stayed late. I did try to keep it in there. Thanks so much, Sonia. Thank you, Mary, Lizzie, Tamara, and Mary Weiss, of course. Yeah, this was wonderful. We will be doing more things like this, putting out some of the masterclass. Just fun to get together and do this and share information. It's so fun for us, and we hope that it's valuable for all of you too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.